It is now 5 o'clock, February 6, 2018, and I call to order the meeting of the City Council of the City of Victorville. And the City Council sitting is the Library Board of Trustees, Southern California Logistics Rail Authority, Southern California Logistics Airport Authority, successor agency to the Victorville Redevelopment Agency, the Victorville Joint Powers Financing Authority, the Victorville Water District, and the city as housing asset successor. May we have roll call, please?
Ms. Gomez?
Good evening.
Mr. Kennedy? Here. Mr. Negretti?
Here.
Mayor Garcia?
Here.
Mr. Cox is absent.
This is the time and place for the general public to address the City Council on any item listed or not listed on the agenda. Per Government Code Section 549-54.3, state law prohibits the council from addressing any issue not previously included on the agenda. The council may receive testimony and set the matter to a subsequent meeting. Do we have any cards?
No.
We have none. Can we have declaration of closed session items by our city attorney, please?
Thank you, Mayor Garcia. While we have several items on the agenda, there's really only 3 cases since several of these are related. Item A is anticipated litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9 D2 and pursuant to Government Code 54956.9 E3. The facts and circumstances related are set forth on the agenda. Items B and C are existing litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9 D1, and they are related to items E, F, G, and H, which is on behalf of the Airport Authority. Again, that's existing litigation. The parties to the litigation and the case numbers are all set forth on the agenda. And lastly, item D is also existing litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9 D1, and this is related to item I on behalf of the Airport Authority. It's existing litigation, and again, the case names and case numbers are set forth on the agenda. To the extent there's reportable action on any of these items, they will be reported either at the conclusion of the closed session or at the commencement of the 6 o'clock meeting.
Thank you. At this time, we will recess to closed session, and our regular session convenes at 6 p.m. It is now 6:03, February 6, 2018, and I call to order the meeting of the City Council of the City of Victorville. And the City Council sitting is the Library Board of Trustees, Southern California Logistics Rail Authority, Southern California Logistics Airport Authority, successor agency to the Victorville Redevelopment Agency, the Victorville Joint Powers Financing Authority, the Victorville Water District, and the city as housing assets successor. May we have roll call, please?
Ms. Gomez?
Good evening, everyone.
Kennedy? Here. Mr. Negretti?
Here.
Mayor Garcia?
Here.
Mr. Cox is absent.
Thank you. We will have the invocation delivered by Reverend Jude from St. Joan of Arc Church, and the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Police Chief John Schuler. And let me see what else I have here. I'm sorry, we should have the closed session announcements by our city attorney before we have the invocation.
Thank you, Mayor Garcia. We had several items listed on the agenda, but essentially it boiled down to 3 cases. Item A was anticipated litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9 D2, and the facts and circumstances related to that are set forth on the agenda pursuant to Government Code 54956.9 E3. Items B and C on behalf of the City Council are related to items E, F, G, and H, and that is all anticipated litigation. The last 4 items are on behalf of the Airport Authority, B and C on behalf of the city. That's pending litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9 D1, and the case names and case numbers are set forth on the agenda. And lastly, item D on behalf of the City Council is related to item I on behalf of the Airport Authority. Again, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9 D1. And again, the case names and case numbers are set forth on the agenda. At this time, there is no reportable action with respect to any of those items.
Thank you. Now, at this time, please stand. We will have the invocation, and after that, we will have the Pledge of Allegiance.
In God we trust. As we gather together, let us ask God to fill our minds with wisdom and our hearts with love, so that we may work for the people of faithful in the city of Victorville. Let us pray. God of justice and mercy, thank you for the gift of life and the opportunity to serve the people of our city of Victorville. Help us to act with character and conviction. Help us to listen with understanding and goodwill. Help us to speak with charity and restraint. Give us a spirit of service. Remind us that we are stewards of your authority. Guide us to be the leaders your people need. Help us to see the humanity and the dignity of those who disagree with us, and to treat all persons, no matter how weak or poor, with the reverence your creation deserves. And finally, Father, renew us with the strength of your presence and the joy of helping to build a building of community worthy of the human person. We ask this as your sons and daughters, confidence in your goodness and love. Amen. Amen.
This evening, we do not have any proclamations or special presentations. Can everyone hear me back there? You can? Okay. At this time, I will have our city clerk present the agenda to the council and any revisions to the agenda.
The City Council of the City of Victorville welcomes the public's participation in tonight's meeting. Persons who wish to address the council on a specific item or any item that does not appear on the agenda are requested to complete one of the white speaker cards located in the council chambers lobby and give it to the city clerk prior to the meeting. The mayor will call upon each individual who has submitted a speaker card. Pursuant to Government Code Section 54954.3, state law prohibits the council from addressing any issue not previously included on the agenda. The council may receive testimony and set the matter to a subsequent meeting. Comments made during the public hearings, written communications, or public comment section of the agenda are to be limited to 3 minutes per speaker or less, as deemed necessary by the mayor. Communications are to be addressed directly to the City Council. Individual comments to staff or members of the audience are not permitted. Any person or group who interferes with the conduct of a City Council meeting by willfully interrupting and/or disrupting the meeting is subject to removal. A peace officer may be requested to assist with the removal should any person or group fail to comply with an order of removal by the Council. Any person or group who resists removal by a peace officer is subject to arrest and prosecution pursuant to California Government Code Section 54957.9, Penal Code Section 503. Thank you for your cooperation. All documents to be considered for approval at this meeting are before the council.
Thank you. Now we will start with public hearings, and our first item, B1, a public hearing of the Board of Directors of the Victorville Water District to hear arguments for and against the approval and amendment to the promissory note and industrial wastewater plant funds budget for membrane bioreactor and generator replacements. Madam Clerk, please read the recommendation.
That the Victorville Water District Board of Directors conduct the public hearing, adopt resolution number VWD 18-001, thereby approving the Second Amendment to the promissory note by and between the Victorville Water District Wastewater Enterprise and the Victorville Water District Enterprise Fund, and an amendment to the Industrial Wastewater Treatment Plant 2017-2018 fiscal year budget, Fund 412, and an additional appropriation of $1,245,000 to make necessary replacements of the membrane bioreactor units, MBRs, and generators for the industrial wastewater treatment plant, and authorize staff to proceed with the procurement and installation of the MBRs and generators through the professional service contract with Woodward and Curran, and approve an increase in the Woodward-Curran contract of $2,242,000 for installation and replacement of the MBRs and generators.
Thank you. Are there any questions of council members, of staff at this time?
Yes, I have one. So would staff please briefly explain to the residents what this means to them with the addition of the appropriations of the monies that we're going to be voting on?
Madam Mayor and members of the council, this item is a fairly involved item that involves funds of the Victorville Water District, and the use of those funds to loan from the Water Operations Fund to the Wastewater Fund, which it holds and controls. And the Wastewater Fund is the fund that is responsible for running the industrial wastewater treatment facility located at the Southern California Logistics Airport, a facility that's been designed and been operating to handle both industrial and domestic waste. Its primary objective was to serve as a treatment solution for Dr. Pepper Snapple, and has been doing so for almost 8 years now. But in addition to that, it also treats about 1 million to 1.5 million gallons a day of domestic treatment that actually flows from residents within the city of Victorville. This item particularly allows for funds to be loaned from the water fund to the wastewater fund in the order of $4.5 million. It actually asks for an additional budget appropriation of $1.245 million and amends the contract with Woodward Curran, who is the contract operator for the plant, so that Woodward Curran can effectuate both the acquisition of new membrane bioreactors, which is a very critical part in the final stage of the wastewater treatment. I think it's, in simplest terms, it's the best way to describe it is it's part of the microfiltration, so it's one of the last stages of actually removing particulates from the water before we actually turn it into a reclaimed water for reuse. But this item also enables the wastewater fund to go ahead and complete the purchase of 2 emergency generators, both in the order of 600 kW, which are necessary to run the plant and the plant operations in the event of emergency. The current generators are smaller and not sufficient in size to handle the full load of the plant, but also are being timed out for air regulations. So with that, this item will help improve the reliability of the plant operations. City Engineer Brian Gengler is here to certainly answer some more technical questions that I'm not as versed in, but that's the general overview for you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I'm just here to respond to any questions council may have.
Water and waste linked. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, our water district has authority. Right with that statement? I am. Yeah. I think we resolved that. Why are these 2 funds or functions not combined into one water function to where we don't need to have this
I think the simplest answer that I can come up with is that you have 2 different rate structures developed for each respective system. So the nexuses are kept separate and they're funding separate capital systems.
Wastewater,
it has been generating sufficient revenue to repay the loan. In fact, we have been paying it down over the years, but it did not have sufficient amount built up in its capital reserves to fund the entire project. So we are relying on some reserve funds that are held in account by Woodard Curran, but we needed additional funds to complete the purchase. The other thing that this item does is it does put in place, similar to the reserve policy that the Water District has, it does put in operating reserves with the use of these funds as well for the wastewater fund.
so we're not funding operations that are falling short. We're funding a reserve in the wastewater fund.
Operating reserve and then the capital replacements.
Other questions? Oh, thank you.
But sort of keying off Ms. Gomez's question, is there anything here that's going to have an effect on rates? I know we're doing a separate rate study on sewer right now, but is this likely to have a rate impact?
What we're using in the rate study is really all the costs, all the capital replacement costs, as well as the operating cost. So all those assumptions go into the rate study, including replacing equipment like this. That does factor into it.
To the extent equipment does have to be replaced at some point in the future, the rates have to be sufficient to cover that replacement when the time comes.
Yes. So that has been factored into the study.
If there's no other questions, I will move on to,
It's time to open the public hearing. It's time to open the public hearing, yeah.
at this time, I open the public hearing. And I don't have any cards. For this item here. I close the public hearing. Are there any comments by council members? None?
Madam Mayor, I'll move approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, second by Ms. Gomez. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries with Jim Cox being absent.
Thank you. We now move on to consent calendar. Consent calendar items C1 through C9 can be approved with one motion unless there is an item that needs to be pulled for discussion.
Of this consent calendar?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, second by Mr. Negretti. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those
Right.
opposed?
I'd like to make a comment before I vote.
Go ahead.
As a member of an elected body who respects the desire for the people to be included in the city business, I will share information on the consent calendar items. I've been told that they are to expedite and create a more efficient way of conducting city business. However, this may not seem evident with a swoop of one vote under one motion, 9 items getting voted without any discussion, which is very rare. So today I'd like to take the time to apprise the public with my limited minutes that we have to see these items. If you look at the first item of 9, you will see an ordinance from January 19th. This was the levy of a special tax for a facilities district that passes unanimously to levy these taxes. C2 and C3 were approved payroll checks to city employees for a period of 2 weeks. C4 is a vendor approval of checks by the city council for a 2-week period. C5 is a performance bond for Bear Valley Road on a medical building that's being expanded and will be approved. C6 is every meeting that we look at prior meetings that take place when the clerk reads them, and we adopt them and we take them and make them a part of our record. C7 is the city's monies that are invested in different places like bank accounts, but it's a much safer way of doing it because it's pooled with so many other agencies, making it a very low risk. So a quarterly investment is required to be approved by council. C8, we have commercial warrants that are being approved tonight. These pertain to vendors, and as you are aware, the city does business with vendors. And C9 is a resident who qualified under the Cal Home program through the planning department in Victorville, received a 2% loan of over $15,000, a revolving fund that helped her as a home occupant rehab her home.
All of that, as I'm not mistaken, is posted on the city website, and it's all included in anyone and everyone who wants to read all those details,
Yeah, it's all here.
avail yourself of it.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, second by Mr. Negretti. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries with Jim Cox being absent.
Now we move on to written communications. Item D1, award of contract for the basketball courts surfacing project. Madam Clerk, please read the recommendation.
That the City Council award the contract to California Surfacing in the amount of $53,200 for the basketball court resurfacing project.
Are there any questions of council members of staff at this time?
Yes.
Go ahead.
For D1, for all of those basketball fans out there and fanatics, the 2017-2018 season has already started. I'm ecstatic to share with you that of the 19 parks that we have in our city, we have funds available to resurface the courts of 8 parks. Most of the funding will come from a federal government grant to our entitled city, who was awarded approximately, for this award, $40,000 for the project. For all the basketball players we have in our community, I like to share with the parks that are being maintained.
Excuse me, this was questions of staff, not for you to be reporting. Do you have any questions of staff?
No, not questions at the moment.
This was questions of staff. Sorry. I do not have any cards at this time.
Move approval of the item, please.
Second.
Are there any council members that have any comments, questions? This is the time for that.
Yes, so for item D1, I will start again. For all of those basketball fans out there and fanatics, the 2017-2018 season has already started. And I'm ecstatic to share with you that of the 19 parks that we have in our city, we have funds available to resurface the courts of 8 of those parks. Most of the funding will come from a federal government grant, the CDBG grants, that are entitled to the city of Victorville. We will be awarding, or we awarded $40,000 for this project. For all the basketball players we have in our community, I'd like to share which parks are being maintained. If you live in the Brentwood area, I know Keith does, we'll have the Brentwood Park, the Center Street Park, Doris Davis near my dwelling, Eva Dell, which is another park by the riverbed, Grady Trammell, Mesa Linda, which is towards the mall area, Old Victor, and finally the Sunset Ridge.
Are you done?
Yes.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, seconded by Mr. Negretti. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries with Jim Cox being absent.
Now we move on to item D2, purchase and sale agreement for Green Tree Boulevard Extension Project. Madam Clerk, please read the recommendation.
That the City Council approve the purchase and sale agreements for right-of-way acquisition for the Green Tree Boulevard Extension Project for the following properties: Ping, APN number 3090-331-02, Hornet et al., APN number 3090-331-02, and Spring Valley Lake LLC, APN number 3090-501-01.
Thank you. Any council member have any questions of staff at this time? Questions?
Go ahead. Brian, these are right-of-ways that we must acquire in order to build the bridge from Ridgecrest at Spring Valley Lake over the BNSF Railroad to meet up with Hesperia Road, the Green Tree Extension.
That's right.
Any way we can build this project without acquiring these right-of-ways?
It is required for the project.
Anyone else have any questions of
Yes,
staff?
I have questions. Since we're 95% in completion with red tape or the rules and the regulations that that the municipalities must adhere to, when is the expected time of start? And when can the residents begin to travel through the proposed project, meaning that 1 mile, 2-lane intersection at Hesperia Road?
I can't give you a precise time on when construction would start because it depends on two main things. The completion of the right-of-way acquisition, which is largely determined by how the negotiations go with the various property owners. And the other major factor would be the construction funding. The City Council has approved a funding agreement with the San Bernardino County Transportation Authority. I guess you could say it'd be step one of the approval, whereby construction funds would be loaned to the city, but to move forward with that loan arrangement, council would have to approve what I would call step two of the approval process, and that would be a resolution that would agree to the loan terms of bonding, the amount of bonding, the interest rate, and so forth. That has not happened yet. We have not received the information yet on the amount that could be bonded or the interest rate. So that has not come to staff yet, and at some point we'll have to present that to City Council and they'll have to make a decision. So the two major factors are completion of right-of-way and then securing the construction funding before construction could start.
Will the work be done by city staff alone, or will Caltrans be involved? Will the work crew work during the day or night hours? What hours would they include? Weekends? I know we've had trouble in the past with this type of thing. And will this include the finishing of the Yucca-Loma Bridge? And how have we notified the 21 properties that are going to be affected by this project? Will there be an acquisition of their lands, any land swaps, or any eminent domain?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll try to answer the questions. I know there were several, so you may have to ask me again if I miss any. But Caltrans' involvement in this is strictly as from the federal funding aspect and the oversight aspect, because it's a federally funded project on both the design and the right-of-way. And we have funds that have been programmed for construction too that are federal funds. So their role is in the approval process for the right-of-way, in the approval process for the funding. However, it is a city-sponsored project. The city is the lead agency, so the city is responsible for the plans and specifications and estimates for the right-of-way and for the construction. So we will be the lead agency on constructing the project. As far as the properties, the 21 properties, whether or not we would exercise eminent domain would really depend on the negotiations with the property owner and how those proceed. That would be a decision that would be made individually on each property. So we don't know that, at this time we don't know if any of the properties would ultimately go into that eminent domain process. And then I can't remember if there was another question you had.
Yucca-Loma Bridge.
So this is part of a larger project. There was an environmental document that cleared a whole corridor from Apple Valley Road to Hesperia Road, and this would be the last segment of that overall project in the environmental document. It would complete that overall project.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Anyone else? Thank you. I do not have any cards on this item. So can I have a motion, please?
Move approval.
Second?
Are there any questions by council members at this time?
Motion by Mr. Negretti, seconded by Mr. Kennedy. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries with Jim Cox being absent.
Now we move on to item D3, offers of dedication for Green Tree Boulevard Extension Project. Madam Clerk, please read the recommendation.
That the City Council accept 2 offers of dedication for the Green Tree Boulevard Extension Project and authorize staff to execute all required documents.
Are there any questions of council members of staff at this time?
Yes, I have a question. I'm under the assumption that the last item is the same as this one, but at no cost. Would staff please address how this item in the Planning Commissioner meeting dealt with for the process of the property that was subdivided, and how those conditions for the subdivision were impacts for the right-of-way?
Okay, so this item is related to the right-of-way for the Green Tree Extension Project. There is right-of-way that was created from 2 parcel maps. There were offers of dedication on the maps, and the normal procedure for this type of right-of-way dedication offer would be, once a road has been improved to city standards, we would accept it, and it would be maintained by the city. This is different because since we need a portion of this right-of-way to construct the Green Tree Extension Project, the recommendation is to accept the portion that we need now before it's improved, with the idea that we will be improving it, the city project will be improving it. So in order for us to acquire all the right-of-way for the project, we need to accept these offers of dedication now.
The one thing that wasn't clear for me was the word using as a dedication. I was under the assumption that we were being gifted something, but I'm sure that's not the case.
Normally in a map approval process, when it goes to Planning Commission, there are conditions of approval on the map, and one of the conditions of approval, the standard conditions, is that they dedicate right-of-way for roads that are needed to serve the project, to serve the development that would be within the map. So it's just a standard condition to offer a dedication for certain streets. So it's not a gift, it's actually a requirement. It's required in our city code.
Oh, thank you. I don't have any further questions.
I move approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, seconded by Mr. Negretti. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries with Jim Cox being absent.
We now move on to item D4, contract award for security services. Madam Clerk, please read the recommendation.
That the Southern California Logistics Airport Board of Directors approve the award of a general services provider agreement to Allied Universal Security Services in the amount not to exceed $236,998 for security services, project number CC 18-021.
Thank you. Are there any questions from council members of staff?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So how was New Way Security Service at SCLA performing? Why did SCLA decide to contract no longer with New Way? And what about considering provisions for local businesses? And there's another question I'm going to add. With a best value bidder clause in the Municipal Code Section 2.28.040, along with Code Section 2.28.100, which outlines the bidding requirements for purchases of general services, supplies, and equipments in excess of $25,000, will city administration, along with the purchasing department, continue to adhere to the municipal codes when they start bringing in bidding processes? This is new to me.
Okay, so We'll start with the first question, was how New Way performed. New Way performed, they were not the best performer. We've had some challenges over the years, but they've been a fairly consistent performer. The reality is that we needed to bid this because their 5-year contract was up. In doing so, we received better brand of applicants than we had in the past. We've had a total of 12 highly qualified firms, of which, when I say 12 qualified firms, of which 4 were highly qualified. They went through a great deal of scrutiny by staff, and we feel we have made a solid selection in a company that has significant experience, not just in the security business, but also in airports. Part of the criteria for choosing this contractor was to have an interview process in which they were asked a total of 10 rather challenging situational questions. What would you do if at 2 o'clock in the morning X happened? And they did a very good job of presenting that. They've got a proven track record and a proven training program that we were very happy with. So we've rated them as the highest. Can you repeat questions 2 and 3 for me?
Yeah, I was thinking about local businesses, a provision of some sort. I know they're coming from Riverside. And the other one was the best value. We're using municipal code, so I thought this was going to be a new trend for all of our purchasing departments and everyone that's going to go through the bidding process.
Sure. There is within our municipal code a provision, I believe it's a 5% additional bonus that a local company gets on a solicitation. In this particular case, we had no City of Victorville company that applied, other than it was New Way, but they quite frankly just didn't make the cut. So even with that taken into account, they were not one of the 4 that ranked high enough upon the evaluation of their submittal to make the interview.
Thank you. I have no further question. Yes, you did.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, another one here.
Anyone else? Thank you. I do not have any cards from anyone here. Therefore, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move approval of D4.
Second.
Are there any questions now of council members? Comments, questions?
Yeah, I have a comment. So I wasn't aware of the cost of the prior security guard that took care of the safeguarding of Victorville as a facility, or the yearly cost of New Way and how much they were charging. But I was looking at the contract, and their services are not to exceed $236,998. That was just a comment.
Did you need an answer, or were you just
That was just a comment that I was making.
Thank you.
Thank you. I've got the next one too, ma'am.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, second by Mr. Negretti. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries with Jim Cox being absent.
Item D5, standard sublease agreement for Southern California Logistics Airport Building 720, Suite 100. Madam Clerk, please read the recommendation.
That the Southern California Logistics Airport Board of Directors approve entering into the standard sublease agreement between SCLAA and Reach Air Medical Services LLC for Building 720, Suite 100, and authorize the interim Deputy City Manager to execute said agreement.
Thank you. Are there any questions of staff at this time by any council member? No one has any questions. I do not have any speaker cards. May I have a motion, please?
Move approval.
Second.
Are there any questions by council members?
Motion by Mr. Negretti, seconded by Mr. Kennedy. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries with Jim Cox being absent.
Item D6, amendment to the contract between the City of Victorville and James Matthew Fredis Fire Advisory Services. Madam Clerk, please read the recommendation.
That the City Council approve an extension of the term of the agreement through December 31st, 2018, the additional scope of work and increase of compensation by $50,000 to the current contract with James Matthew Matt Freitas Fire Advisory Services.
Thank you. Are there any questions of staff by council members at this time?
Yes.
My only question is how do we think we're moving along on progress on this? George, who is?
Yes, Madam Mayor, City Council. So far, since the council took the action at the second January meeting, we've
George,
made...
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing you.
That was really loud. Since the council took the action at the second meeting in January, we've made significant progress towards securing and hiring a fire chief. To date, we received 13 applications for that position. We are holding interviews this Thursday, so about 3 weeks sooner than we anticipated based on the flow of applications that we received, which is good. We will be releasing this Thursday the recruitments for the division chief and battalion chiefs simultaneously this Thursday, with an expectation to hold interviews probably by the end of February, early March. We are also in the process of securing some apparatus scope specs so that we can start preparing for those purchases, as well as for some of the staff vehicles. I believe we're moving. I want to be cautiously optimistic that we're moving slightly ahead of the original schedule, but I believe we're moving along just fine.
Anyone else have any questions? Or do you guys-
Madam Mayor, I have a quick question. Certainly, we had given direction at the last meeting. I believe the motion was to see if there was a best and final offer, additional information from the county. So I'd like to hear about that. And then just, we're moving down this road, and I feel like we don't have all the information. So, but we've made a decision. So how this is all going to lay out over the next 12 months or whatever it is, I'd like to get more comfortable with that. But also, did we get any feedback from the county?
Madam Mayor and members of the council, to answer the question directly, we did not get anything back from the county, despite them having stood up here at the council meeting. I think it was on the 16th, advising that they had substantial information for us to review. I have since not heard anything from the county. I had actually expected my phone to ring the very next day. It did not. Never received any emails. I believe up until this morning, finally, Mr. Harris did get contacted by the CAO, but as it stands currently, we have not received anything in response, and certainly not in the form of a best and final.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yes. My question is, what budget is the not to exceed $75,000 coming from? And is this money going to be coming from the general fund, since it's considered public safety? And does the city of Victorville have a new employee, Mr. Freitas, disguised as a consultant? Has anyone thought about asking Mr. Freitas to apply for the fire chief position, hiring him as an interim to have him directly be involved in the works that we're talking about? And to me, basically, I read the scope of work, which in my opinion may be divided between the interim city manager, interim deputy city manager, and the deputy city manager.
So, to answer those questions, the first question, I'm sorry, could you repeat the first question again?
Yes. What budget is the not to exceed $75,000 coming from? Was it the general
So at
fund?
the meeting where council provided direction for us to move forward, attached to that decision was a budget amendment to amend the 2017-18 budget to allow for these expenditures, primarily for the consulting work, as well as budget to allow us to purchase those initial pieces of apparatus, as well as the staff time for the fire chief and an assistant towards the end of the fiscal year. No, Mr. Freitas is not serving in the capacity of an employee, and that's very important to him because he is a retired annuitant. And I think despite all of my efforts to beg Mr. Freitas to apply for the fire chief position, he has respectfully declined. He's enjoying his retirement and has some other plans. But yes, after having worked with him for 5 years at another city, I would love to work with him again in that capacity, but he has chosen not to apply for the position. However, will assist us with the recruitment, and will be participating in those interviews this Thursday as a consultant, serving in a great capacity that we will desire at the time of those interviews, since he does have a large breadth of experience.
Did he repeatedly decline?
Well,
I mean, how many times?
I
did you
took a
ask,
hint.
George?
I took a hint. No, he is. I wish he were interested. He's just not. He's only been retired for a little bit over 8 months now, Matt. And so,
Fourth time, he might say yes.
hey, well, let's see the deadline. It's open till field recruitment. So, if we don't find someone good Thursday, then we may be able to. We'll see. Maybe I have to ask him that fourth time.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
I'll move approval of,
Well, I have to continue with the speaker cards. I don't have any. So at this time, I will have the motion.
move approval of item D6.
Second. Are there any questions or comments by council members? None?
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, second by Mayor Garcia. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries with Jim Cox being absent.
We now move on to item D7. Council members' roles and duties. Madam Clerk, please read the recommendation.
Any action at the discretion of the City Council.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I ask that this item be placed on the agenda as a result of some behavior issues involving Councilmember Gomez at the warming shelter a few weeks ago. I just want to make a couple of comments, and then I'm going to make a motion, and if it gets a second, we'll see what happens. We can talk about it. I believe by her behavior over the last 12 months, Ms. Gomez has proven that she does not respect the policies and customs of this council. I believe she has misled the public to think that she represents this council. At times, she has given the impression that she speaks for the council. I believe we as a council should protect ourselves from her public behavior and her misleading statements. So I'm going to make the motion that the Victorville City Council make a public statement that in accordance with our rules and policies, unless she has been specifically designated as our representative, Councilmember Gomez does not represent or speak for the Victorville City Council.
Yeah, this is already in the policy
Can I
if
get
you
a
want to
second?
read it.
Is there a second? Maybe not. We don't even need to discuss it.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, seconded by Mr. Negretti. All those in favor?
I
Discussion
do
first.
have a card. There is one card. Alejandra Diaz?
Good evening. I'm Alejandra Diaz, and I reside on the city of Victorville. And does Ms. Gomez has represent the city of Victorville on the warmer shelter? It's a question. Because I don't think she has done that. Also, I have worked in the past with Ms. Gomez, and she has never said that she represents city of Victorville. So I truly find this very disappointed to me that you guys, publicly doing these statements against Blanca Gomez. So can anybody answer the question?
We're not allowed to converse with you at this time.
Oh, okay. Well, I have to make a statement that Ms. Blanca Gomez has not gone to the warmer shelter and say that she represents the city of Victorville, neither on another show appearance on the public.
This is a point of
Thank you.
order for the Brown Act.
You're
For
out
the
of
city
order. She's
attorney,
speaking. You're out of order.
we're
Please.
going to answer.
You are out of order.
This is a
Please
point
let her
of
speak.
order.
I thought we say no interruption. Ms. Gloria Garcia, and you're interrupting Ms. Gomez.
I'm not interrupting her. She's interrupting our meeting.
I see it other way.
Here's the policies, ma'am.
So this is as a point of order, Andre.
Andre?
With the Brown Act, when we have something that's on the agenda, we can interact with responses to the public.
The council is able to answer questions if they want to.
Absolutely. Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you. And I have a comment in the back of my card, and it's up to you, Ms. Gloria, if you would like to read it. Thank you. Have a great evening.
Madam,
So the motion was for us to,
There's still discussion, I believe.
Right, there's a point of privilege, point of personal privilege. Right here we have on our manual that everybody should have, policy, advocacy. Council members shall represent the official policies or positions of the council to the best of their ability when designated as delegates for this purpose. When presenting their individual opinions and positions, council members shall explicitly state that they do not represent the opinions of the entire council. So for the motion that has been made, had you read your policy manual like I had, you would have realized that you don't need a motion. That is already a part of our policies and procedures of this manual.
Madam Mayor, I have a comment. I'd like to echo Councilmember Kennedy's comments about conduct. We've been a city since 1962, and we never had a conduct policy until now, and I asked for that in March. Now, I respect comments and input from the public. Everybody has their own opinion, but at every occasion in the last 12 months, there has been behavior that is unbecoming of a council member. Name calling, personal insults, and the frustration just keeps building with our new council member, Gomez.
Point of
We are
personal
here
privilege.
to serve the community in the city of Victorville. And you don't serve by making it about yourself. Matter of fact, there's community block grants, there's other things that the city does that contributes to different organizations throughout the city. There's great leadership in our community with all the different organizations that are out there, whether it's the school district, whether it's the nonprofits, homeless, all of the different various folks that are out there. Those are leaders. And we need more people like that. And you support people like that by building relationships. And over time, things get much easier to deal with. I would be so embarrassed if I was tossed out of a warming shelter. But when I do go to the homeless shelter, people will say, I'll drop off stuff. Do you want something to, for your taxes to write that off? No, I'm good, thank you. I don't introduce myself. I don't need to post something about myself on Facebook. But, you know, there's, again, a new conduct policy manual, and I appreciate the support of the council to put that out there. It's exactly for reasons like this. When you have one council member telling people that they represent the council, that is inappropriate. If there's an official policy that was voted on by this council, yes. But rifling through people's personal belongings and recording homeless people against their will without their permission was never voted on in this council.
Point of personal privilege.
So I'm going to say on record, while I appreciate people's interactions with Councilmember Gomez for a 5-minute period, a minute, we've been dealing with this for a year at every single occasion. So I would hope that the members of the public would understand that this is, again, in line with the conduct policy that we never had, that I requested be implemented in March, and thank goodness it is, for exactly these things. None of the council members, the rest of us, have been in those situations, and I doubt that we ever will. So this is embarrassing to me and to my city, and I get no joy out of talking about this. I get no joy out of having to do this, because you kind of expect that someone may not have experience when they get elected, and that's okay. Nobody has experience with everything. But when you work together on anything, in any job or in your personal life, and when you volunteer, working together, you get more. Making it about yourself, you're going to isolate yourself and get very frustrated. So this is unfortunate, because it's all about service and working together. And I have learned how to work together with my council members, even though we differ on a lot of different things. And where you can, you seek to get consensus and be effective on behalf of the city. So again, I appreciate the public's input.
You have
but
30
it's been-
seconds.
It's been a year of this, and it's exhausting. Okay? This is probably not the last time. And then people say, why don't you just tell her? Why doesn't the council do something? We've done it. So again, I appreciate the comments. It's not working, okay? It just doesn't work. So that's why we are where we are. So I'm looking forward to the next time we have this conversation.
Is a point of personal
I have a
privilege.
card.
Chapter 5,
I have
Section 2, Rules of the Discussion and Debate says
have a
point
card
of
here. I have a
personal
card.
privilege. The right of a council member
I
to
have
address
a
the council
card. I'm
on a
trying to
question
follow
of personal
order here.
privilege shall be limited to
Out of order.
cases
She's
in
out of
which
order.
her integrity, character, or motives are questioned, or where the welfare of the council is concerned. A council member raising a point of personal privilege may interrupt another council member. Point of personal privilege.
You keep reading that sentence, please.
Continue.
Privilege may interrupt another council member.
Who has the floor only if the presiding officer
The right of a
recognizes the
council
privilege.
member to address the council on a question of personal privilege shall be limited to cases in which his or her integrity, character, or motives are questioned, or where the welfare of the council is concerned. A council member raising a point of personal privilege may interrupt another council member who has the floor.
You need to keep reading the sentence.
What I'm saying is the presiding chair is touching on a slippery slope by not being able to acknowledge or calling on a point of personal privilege.
5-minute recess. And I do have a couple of cards. Rosie Reese first, and after her will be Regina Cervantes. Yes.
Good evening. Good to see you all again. I was here at the last meeting, last city council meeting. Most of the people that are here that I see, a lot of them weren't here at the last meeting, so they didn't hear actually the conduct that was presented that was, I'm sorry, the conduct that was encountered when Blanca Gomez went to the warming shelter. And I'm here because I'm actually Racine Reese. I'm the founder and CEO of Women of Noble Character. We've been here in Victorville feeding the homeless for almost 8 years now. Since the warming shelter, we've started serving meals at the warming shelter December 4th, and we served over 1,000 meals there since December 4th. My issue is that if you don't see both sides of the story, okay, let me just say it like this. I was under the impression that Blanca Gomez was there at the warming shelter because there was things that she heard, conduct, I guess, going on that shouldn't be going on, and that she was there for that reason. Looking at the videos, I did not once hear what the reason was that she was there. And if any of the people here would have been here to see what the accusations were, then there would be more credibility to what they had to say. But for me, having been here for 8 years and watching the struggle to get this warming shelter up and going from so many people, to see the people that are benefiting from the warming shelter, as I said before, if there's things that's going on that shouldn't be, then they need to be addressed and they need to be corrected. But you don't kick out the whole warming shelter that is here supporting the homeless people that I don't see any of these people out supporting. I have never, I am a pastor, so I am not here to accuse anyone. Yes, I'm a pastor. And I'm not here to accuse anyone, but I've never seen anyone,
Any of us?
Yes. You know what I'm saying? So for me to have somebody speak on my behalf for something that I've been working at for 8 years, and to say that they're there to help, but you're not actually addressing the issues that you're there for, you're actually maybe there because, I don't know. The impression I got from the video is maybe somebody was upset about their position not being respected more so. I don't know. But the issues of why she was there was never addressed. And so I'm asking that if we're going to deal with the problem, let's deal with the problem. But if you're there self-seeking and self-serving, it's not doing anything but producing more problems. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Regina Cervantes.
For letting me speak. I came here today with some young women to see, to show them what civics is like in a small community. And I'm appalled at what I'm watching. I have lived in other parts of the country where city council members relate to each other in a more civil manner. This is a good lesson for these young women. And by the same token, I haven't seen the video. I don't know anything about this controversy. But I don't think it serves the community and the voters of Victorville, what's going on. Okay. I've served in many levels, many communities across this nation, homeless, you name it. And I think this could be better handled, a lot better handled. And I'm really disappointed to see, how it's going on. I don't think it serves the community. And I know it doesn't serve me as a voter. I don't know what happened, and it's irrelevant whether somebody is using social media or not, because this is how we communicate nowadays, and it's extremely important for people to reach out to members of the community, and social media is just one of the key ways to have it done. So, on that sense, Mr. Negretti, I hate to inform you, but this is how we communicate nowadays. And young people, the future of our country, this is all they know. How to relate, how to communicate, and using social media is the key. And I would hope that moving forward, more of you come out. I don't even know any of you because I've never seen you out in public. Okay? I never have. I did meet Ms. Gomez in public because of the service that I do in my community or the service that I did. I'm retired. But it's really important that we establish better communication with the people of our community and extend ourselves, including social media. It's not a pariah. It's not, you know, don't mark it with the scarlet letter. It's how we communicate with the people who are just in college now and are going to serve us in public service. Thank you.
I'm not sure if Helen ever got to speak. Is she still here?
Hi, council members. Normally I come every month, and for a while I didn't come because I am very upset and sad by what is going on with the council. All this drama. I feel, the community need you guys. So please, if you can get along, do some things. Have a meeting. If Ms. Gomez doesn't understand the rule, please explain to her. But I don't think she's a bad person. I think she's also a good person. But the community need you. So if you're fighting instead of helping the community, it's not going to work out. All these people here need your help. So please try to get along. She has been elected like all of you. So you all need to be respected, including Blanca Gomez, I was very sad. I didn't come because I said, I cannot deal with this anymore. It's too much. I think what she tried to do, we are all human. Everybody made mistake. So I think what she tried to do is she wants to help too much. She's overwhelmed with what she wants to do. So she made a mistake by representing the council, but try to teach her, try to explain to her. But don't fight, because we are not in a kindergarten, we are adults. So if you can, do something, I don't know, but it's very, very upsetting for people in the public to hear you fighting all the times. So it's... because I like all of you, I respect all of you, but please try to get along, do something for us. If it's not for you, do it for the community. So thank you very much.
We deal with the city's business day in and day out in hundreds of ways in the course of a year that people never see. I'm not a person who's particularly interested in having the public think I'm a wonderful guy. I don't participate in things that don't fit in my life, but I'm here to do the city's business. That's my job. Now, one of the problems is free speech is messy. We believe in free speech in this country. We have a constitution that has a Bill of Rights, and the first one is the freedom to speak freely. Well, we have that. I'd like to say that there ought to be limits on that, but even I don't know where to put limits. All we're saying as a council is each of us speaks for ourselves as an individual, and we don't want anyone thinking out there that any particular council member, including Ms. Gomez, speaks for the entire council. That's the only issue we're dealing with here. She can say whatever she wants to say that the law will allow, as long as she speaks as a citizen and an elected official, but she's not speaking for the council. She's speaking for herself. I respect that. She should respect that. You all should respect that. Getting along doesn't mean that we all go along with Ms. Gomez. I'm sorry. That's not what getting along means. We're going to live with some controversy on this council, I can promise you. I hope we do better than we have tonight, but where we are. I'd like to call the question, unless Ms. Gomez, you want to add anything more? Are you through?
The chair should address, right? The presiding chair, would you?
Never mind, don't start, okay? Are there any other questions?
Yes, I have things that I'd like to add.
Council,
Speak?
Yes, please.
Did you want to speak?
Yes.
Go ahead. I'm giving you the floor. Go ahead.
Okay. So a disclaimer, before I begin. Chapter 2 of the resolution manual reminds this legislative body that no individual council member has extraordinary powers beyond of those other members with respect to the establishment of policies, voting, and in other significant areas. All members are equal. I want to thank everyone who has taken time out of their busy schedule to come out and support a democracy. How many of you came prepared with la chancla? The sandal, the flip-flop, la chancla, is like local government who is not self-governed but governed by the people. I have experienced the accuracy of la chancla. I'm a firm believer in its assets as a local municipal resource. Why are local bodies of government so well behaved? The secret of the Hispanic American culture, which establishes justice, provides for the common defense, and promotes general welfare in a traditional technique known as la chancla. Think, council members' roles and duties when engaging in communications with members of the public and or community groups. For centuries, la chancla has helped local electeds in interactions with the public by focusing their attention to each resident's unique needs. It has instilled to keep the tone of the debate to be respectful, civil, and honest. It has encouraged speaking one's mind to serve the public's interest. It has highly prized our First Amendment rights to speak our conscience when one feels that the public's interests are served by doing so. And that could be found in the Institute of Local Government, page 6, submitted by our attorney, and it's actually inside of our agenda. As your public servant, I have a fiduciary duty and public service to you, the residents of Victorville. The Institute for Local Government defines it as a fiduciary is also someone who acts for another. That is why trust and confidence are so important. That night, I was representing the voiceless, the homeless of our city. As a fiduciary, I have the power and obligation to act for another with diligence, responsibility, and honesty. I put my best efforts on behalf of those I serve. I strive to do the duty, to do a good job. When I signed up to serve you and them, I didn't sign up for easy. A fiduciary is forbidden from acting in any manner adverse or contrary to the interest of those he or she serves. As your fiduciary, I prohibit myself from acting in a contrary way to the interests of those I serve. I took this job capable of staying true to honesty, to being open and transparent. I do not only answer to the courts, I also answer to the public. The Marine Corps motto said it best, Semper Fi, always faithful.
Are you done?
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, seconded by Mr. Negretti. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Would you please read what motion we are voting on?
Yes, I will be happy to.
Read it all.
Victorville City Council makes a public statement that in accordance with our rules and policies, unless she has been specifically designated as our representative, Councilmember Gomez does not represent or speak for the Victorville City Council. That's the motion, but I'm going to add these words because it's well known to the rest of us. That same rule applies to every single one of us sitting on this dais. I'm only singling out Ms. Gomez because she's been the one that we've had to deal with for the last year who seems to be in our opinion, is misleading the public about who she represents. So that's the reason for my motion. Got it? It's written. I'll hand it to you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
I have another comment. Going to read what we have here.
Well, I had already closed this, but it's closed.
All those opposed?
I'm not sure what I'm voting for. This is already in
The
this
motion
piece.
the motion was just read.
Yes, and that same motion is in here. So I'm not sure, are we re-voting for the same thing? I need clarification.
Why don't you reread the motion? Can you read the motion?
I don't have it written down. Can I?
Kennedy, can you just read the motion, please?
It'll be a public statement.
Victorville City Council make a public statement that in accordance with our rules and policies, unless she has been specifically designated as our representative, Councilmember Gomez does not represent or speak for the Victorville City Council.
And did you forget to add that extra little tidbit? Because that's what we're voting on. You added something else that it's not just Gomez.
You want to amend
it
the
was the rest?
motion just to be that? Just to be that, what you just spoke. That's just the extent of the motion.
Yeah, that's my motion.
Second.
So yes, he added the extra tidbit that is
No, he
not.
did not. This is an amended motion. The motion was just what he read just now, and it's been seconded.
Oh, so he can single me out?
He's made the motion, and it's been seconded.
We're not singled out. We have a motion and
No,
a second.
yes, it specifically singles you out. Yes.
So it does?
Yes.
And what does that mean?
What?
What does that motion mean?
It's just so that the public knows
Oh.
that you don't speak for me or the other members of this council. That's all it says. That's all it says.
We could have done more, but we're just doing that.
But
Okay?
it's a public statement that I would like for the Daily Press to print, just in case somebody might read that newspaper. Oh, I don't care if they want to claim that I made the motion, fine. If the council's going to vote. I'm the one that brought the issue up.
Okay. Now we move on to
Wait, I'm
public
sorry.
comments.
I still have to get the motion.
We move on to public comments.
Mayor Garcia, we still need to get
I need the final vote.
council members Gomez's vote.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries with Mrs. Gomez voting no and Mr. Cox being absent.
Thank you. Now we move on to public comments. And I do have some cards. The first one is Lisa Carlson. Second is Anthony Archuleta. Third will be Miller Marks.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Carlson, and I represent Industrial Hemp CBD products. 5 years ago, I developed a sudden disability, and I no longer am able to carry a full-time job. The doctor had given me 15 pills a day, and for my pain, my inflammation, still trying to figure out what's wrong. I had depression, anxiety, and the side effects of all the pills that I were taking added to my declining health. I have tried many strains of marijuana, and by learning over the last 5 years of which strains the high CBD ended up being the best ones for me. However, it wasn't just that was helping, it was the CBD and the marijuana that I found out that was actually helping. So during all my research, I found a hemp farm in Colorado, and this farm had medicinal uses, and the CBD that they were growing was strictly from the industrial hemp. And after much begging, I was able to get this amazing organic oil from them, and now I'm able to sell industrial hemp CBD. It's an extract from the hemp plant, which is a cousin of the marijuana plant. The products that I have contain no THC. That is a psychoactive agent that's in the marijuana plant. You don't get high from my products. What you get is a sustained level of a relief from a wide variety, from your aches, your pains, your joint issues, any of your medical conditions. This has been an incredible recovery for me. I would probably be in a wheelchair if I had not discovered industrial hemp CBD. It's not marijuana. You guys know what hemp is. You've seen it. It's rope, clothes, food, paper, textiles, plastic, insulation, biofuel. Hemp can be done with everything. You can make hemp juice. It's cold pressed. It can be done with drug-free products, nutrition, medicine, cosmetics, beverages. The list goes on what you can do with industrial hemp. Section 7606 of the 2014 U.S. Farm Bill, Congress legalized industrial hemp by an exception to the Controlled Substance Act, and the definition of cannabis for what is termed industrial hemp is now defined as the plant Cannabis sativa L, and any part of such plant, whether growing or not, is in a concentration of not more than 0.3% on a dry weight basis.
Your time is up. Thank you.
That was 3 minutes.
Yes. Lisa Carlson.
I am Lisa Carlson.
Oh, I'm sorry. Anthony Archuleta.
Good evening, members of the council. Today I come to you guys as a concerned citizen. Currently, we're watching real estate go up here in the city of Victorville exponentially. What are we doing to counter-offense this? The counties of Los Angeles, counties of San Diego, and Orange County have renter oversight. As of right now, in the past 7 months, not only mine, but other friends and family members' rents have gone up 3 times in the last 7 months. My rent for my apartment has gone up to $1,300 a month. I am a college student with student loans with a small family. We usually told that renting apartments were going to help us save money to pay our bills. And as of right now, the county of San Bernardino doesn't have anything as renter oversight. What are we doing to combat this? Well, I did a little digging. I went around the high desert to see what other apartment complexes are facing these dilemmas, and it's everywhere. And where are these apartment complexes? Who are they owned by? I'll tell you what, they're not here. They're not community-owned apartment complexes. They're from Orange County. They're from LA. And these guys use social media to say, hey, come up to the high desert. Come and get the real estate boom, because it's still here in the high desert, because we don't have regulations to stop this. Renter oversight is not here in the high desert. This is very, very troubling. As our rent goes up, as of right now, I live in a 600 square foot apartment. As of right now, it's $1.89, close to $2 a square foot from my small apartment. And I'm looking online and I'm seeing houses that are at 89 cents to 92 cents a square foot, almost up to $1. But apartments are double that. LA County, Orange County, San Diego County, they don't allow these things to happen in their counties, guys. We need to find something. We need to find a solution that we're watching these people and making sure that our rents aren't going up. Because apartments are supposed to help us move on and get a house and move forward, to pay our bills, to excel, to get a piece of the American dream. A couple of statistics. The average person here in Victorville makes roughly $47,000, okay? With the state of California and the feds coming in to taxing us, that's about $15,000 of that is gone. So you're down to $30,000. After apartment, say your apartment's at $1,200 a month. From that $30,000, you times that $1,200 by 12 months, now you're looking down to $16,000. Okay, now you're looking at utilities, roughly about $300 a month.
I'm sorry, your time
No
is up.
worries. Can I place another card forward?
No, not at this time, but is there someone that can actually talk to him after the meeting? Yeah.
Okay.
If you'll wait, they'll talk to you privately.
Thank you, members of the council.
Thank you. Miller Marks.
Hello, Council. Hello, Madam Mayor. My name is Mr. Marks, and I live on Tamarack in Mariposa, and I want to bring to your attention of speeding on Mariposa. There's a lot of speeders coming on Mariposa. My home is right near on the corner, and they had a lot of accidents there so many years, and it's getting very, very scary. My wife is very afraid to. My bedroom is right near the road, Mariposa, and she's just afraid to sleep in that bedroom. She usually sleeps all the way in the front room because there's a lot of accidents, a lot of speeders, and I just want to give this to your attention. If we could do something about the speed limit and put a caution light or a wall from our safety for our home. We do need help and safety for our protection because there was a lot of accidents, and I did speak with Captain Schuler, and he has reports on that, and I just hope that if you could just help us out and try to protect us on safety, because accidents do occur, and people just drive so crazy in Victorville. They just, the speed limit is 50, but they go on like 75 to 80. And that's really shaking us up very bad, Madam Mayor. And please, if you could put it to your attention, and we have to do something about it because, we don't want no accidents. I'm afraid that a vehicle could wind up in my bedroom because they lose control at that high speed, and they might be drunk. There might be a lot of stupid things could happen, and at this crazy things happen. So we just want to be safe than sorry, So please do something about it, Madam Mayor, and God bless everybody, and I'll pray for you guys.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, can we get that a card to the city staff to follow up with us and let us know if that intersection has been surveyed before, and if not, if we might be able to take a look at that? Okay, thanks.
Okay, that's the last card that I had. We will move on now to our city manager's report.
Madam Mayor and members of council, thank you. Tomorrow, for those that have tickets, is the State of the City. So looking forward to being a part of that. Actually, as it stands right now, I'll be standing in for Councilmember Cox. So I'll look forward to being up there on the stage with you. Friday, February 9th is Tree and Shrub Pruning Workshop, 8 a.m. to noon, Victorville City Hall. Saturday, February 24th is the Neighborhood Cleanup and Free Dump Day, 8 o'clock to 1 p.m. Questions regarding those events, you can contact RPIO.
Thank you. Now we move on to discussion and possible action regarding items for the upcoming City Council agenda. This is not reports from council members, but any items that may be agendized for the next meetings. Anyone?
Madam Mayor, if I may, and I'm not sure if this is an agenda item for the next meeting, which is fine, but my ultimate goal is for a workshop. And that workshop, I'd like to bring it to the attention of the council. As you may know, there are many different organizations that distribute meals. And what's happened is that if certain organizations get together and try to solve these issues jointly, it's much easier, as we've seen with other projects around the city. So what I'm asking for is either an agenda item on the next for the next meeting, and ultimately I'll ask for a workshop, unless I can just do that now, Mr. City Attorney.
If the council is agreeable to set a workshop, you could make the motion to set a workshop on it.
Or, and again, there are many different organizations out there. I'd like to know a little bit more about them in a public workshop and see if we might be able to get certain organizations together. So we can have an agenda item or a workshop.
Or at least to talk about.
Sure, agenda item. I'd request the support for the council for an agenda item on this issue. Again, it's a meal distribution efforts and trying to build some a joint solutions instead of having one organization try to do it all by themselves. for the next agenda item. Thank you.
Got a motion
We need a motion in a second.
Yes, move
to place that on a future
to
agenda?
place the meal distribution item on the next agenda.
Motion by Mr. Negretti, seconded by Mr. Kennedy. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
So that motion is a meal distribution efforts to build a joint solution instead of having one organization doing all the efforts. Was that the motion?
That's essentially the motion, yes, correct. To agendize the issue to discuss the possibility of getting these organizations together.
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries with Jim Cox being absent.
Else have an item for next
Don't-
agenda?
I do not.
No? Then I'll move on to reports from council members. And I'll start with Ms. Gomez.
As to the motion that was self-serving on item D7, the procedural manuals, chapter 310, advocacy states council members shall represent the official policies or positions of the council to the best of their ability, one designated as a delegate, but for this purpose. When presenting their individual opinions and positions, council members shall explicitly state that they do not represent the opinion of the entire council. This majority vote has done nothing but put on a show, trying to use a combined vote to intimidate its voters and myself as a council member. There is absolutely no fear. I've not been stripped of anything. I'm still an elected official and an avid representative of the community, and I will continue to represent myself as Council Member Gomez of Victorville. I would also like to thank Reverend Jude from St. John of Arc Church for taking the time to deliver today's invocation. Community leaders are encouraged to keep their legislative body in prayer, for we know that we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against spirits and principalities in the air. We welcome your prayers, thoughts, and comments. As a legislative body in Victorville, we strive to be less like the statutes that have ears but cannot hear, have mouths but cannot speak, or have eyes yet cannot see. On a different note, the month of February is Black History Month. Every February since 1976, America has celebrated the milestones and achievements of African Americans during Black History Month. Me gustaría agradecerle al reverendo Jude de la Iglesia de San Juan de Arco por tomar el tiempo para entregar la invocación de hoy. Líderes de la comunidad son llamados a mantener el grupo legislativo en oración porque sabemos que no luchamos
You're
contra
out of
carne
order.
y sangre, sino contra los espíritus y las potestades en el aire. Agradecemos sus oraciones, pensamientos y comentarios. Como cuerpo legislativo en Victorville, nos esforzamos por ser menos los estatuas que tenemos oídos, pero que no podemos oír, tenemos boca, pero no podemos hablar, y tenemos ojo, pero no podemos ver. También quiero notar lo siguiente: el mes de febrero, en el mes de la historia del Moreno, cada mes de
Due to the lack of quorum, the meeting of February 6th is adjourned to no specified date and time with no members present.